With all the car shows and YouTube channels that have popped up over the last few years, there's more people being introduced to our world than ever before, and that's a good thing. But it's also a bad thing because some of what these guys are seeing, the newcomers, the guys who are just saying, oh, I gotta build my first car, right? What they're being introduced to is something that's just a little bit over the top, and they think that it's normal, and this is kind of like what I'm talking about right here. If you watch these shows, almost universally, they take a car and they blow the thing completely apart. It comes off the frame, it gets stripped to the unibody, whatever the situation. But everything is taken down to it. It's completely disassembled. It's blasted from end to end. It's primed from end to end. They're building a perfect car. And that's awesome. If you've got a full crew, a 10,000 square foot shop, the means to do the whole car in one shot. This is not the way to do it. It's the way to do it for them. And I'm not knocking it. Some of these shows, I love some of them, like the Graveyard Cars, I watch all the time, and that's what they do. They take this thing down to nothing, But if you're the average guy and you're just getting into this, or you've been into it for a while and you've got that big build planned in your head, and you've got this image, this is what you want to do, you may be barking up the wrong tree. In fact, I've got a friend of mine, I won't mention his name, but he actually embarked on a similar mission 40 years ago, in 1978. The car is still not together again. It's still scattered. It hasn't moved under its own power in 40 years. Because once you've got the car to this point, putting it together in one shot, gathering all of the nuts and bolts and the odds and ends and making everything perfect is a monumental task. You can't really fathom it unless you've tried to do it yourself. I've tried to do it myself. You cannot believe how much space a car takes up once you take it apart. If you've got a 4-car garage, you will fill it with the parts to that car. If you're dealing with less space than that, you end up in a psychological nightmare. And this is one of the things that stalls, actually, it stops a lot of projects right in their tracks. They'll take the car apart and they'll pile the interior parts there, and then the fenders and the doors and the drivetrain shit, and it all becomes a clusterfuck. You can't really see one part from the other. And what it does is it psychologically turns you off from working on the car, from going any further, because you've got to climb over this and you've got to squeeze through that. If you don't have the space, if you can't spread it way out, and you don't have the money to put it all together in one shot, don't even attempt it. When I do a car for myself, I do one section at a time. If I'm doing the rear end, I do the rear end. If I'm doing the engine, I do the engine. If I'm doing a quarter panel, I do that quarter panel. Then I put the car back together again. Psychologically, I'm not looking at a disjointed device, thing that's it's only a car in abstract. I'm looking at a car. I'll even go so far as to, like, let's say I'm doing the front end on the car. I've got the fenders off. If I'm not going to touch it for a couple of weeks, I'll actually hang the fenders back on the thing so that when I look at the car, I see a car, and it motivates me to go back and work on it some more. The car thing is a thinking man's game. And if you're going to get started on something like this, think with your head, not over it. Speaking of things, our friend Stephen Ivy sent us a care package. Got this in the mail today. Tony, I figured you could use this as a garage decoration. It's a 3-barrel Holley. How many of those do you see? A few youngins, before the Dominator came along around 1970, Holley started making these things, 1967, 1968. There's a 950 CFM 3-barrel. They don't need carburetors. Actually, they made a bigger size than this too. They made a 1050 size, same size as the original Dominator. And this was the hot setup, man. Like 1969, 1970, 71, 72. You had one of these things on your street car, you were badass. They're a little bit of a bitch to tune. That when that secondary opens, it's like, like all velocity goes out the window. So tuning out the bog is a bit of a problem. This one, I want to say it's a basket case, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this off to Eric Jackson over at Vintage Muscle Car Parts. Eric Jackson. Oh, hey, Mary Jackson. I'm going to send it over to Eric and see if he can turn this thing into a carburetor again. And I'm going to pay for it by selling these shirts. So you can message us over on Facebook and get one of these things, 20 bucks, and we're on the way. So in the meantime, get back to work. See you tomorrow.